Okay, so today's session on the box is pretty, well, mechanical, let's put it that way. I'm going to inlay this side, and then I'm going to assemble the box. I'm going to sand it down, and that's what this episode is going to be. Now that we got the burn done, as you can see, we have some char over here, and we have to remove all of this from the wood before we put our inlay in. If we don't, it will make a mess and you won't get a good fit. So what I do is I have regular acetone and a very, very dirty rag. And I'll just take the acetone rag and wipe it along the inlay area. And you can see right away that it's removing all of that tar that we generated from the burn. So now this looks, see, all this black. And I'll just put a little bit more on here. I use a lot of acetone. And I'll just rub it all along. This also has a good idea because since I use the recycled wood, there's a little bit of shellac or some varnish or something that's on the surface of the wood. So this helps get rid of it as well. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Got most of the crud off, and we're left with a very good imprint of the inlay. Next thing that we need to do is actually put in the inlay. So for this process, I go ahead and squeeze some glue out and put a good amount of glue in here. And maybe a little bit more in here. And then we'll use the tool that you get from Rockler, which is very nice and does a good job of spreading the glue out. And we'll just rub it in here and be very careful you don't leave anything behind, so you'll have to take a few things out. Rub it in everywhere where the inlay is going to go so you don't have a problem. So like that. Okay, now repeat the process on this other part. Make sure that everything is covered. Okay, so that all looks pretty good. Give it a visual just to make sure that you don't have any crud in there. And there is a little bit here, so I pop it out. There it goes. Double check. Make sure everything has a little bit of glue on there. Now, I noticed that this little piece here has a little bit of a ridge, and that's usually where I have a joint. So I'm just going to clean that out a little bit before I go ahead and glue. Okay, there should be a little bit there. Okay. Get that out of the way. Clean it up a little bit better. There's a little bit there. Okay. I'm going to just put a little bit more glue in here. I think this deserves a little bit better glue job than I'm doing. There we go. There's one thing you don't want is the glue to hold on all places except the ends, because if it pops up on the ends, you're really in bad shape. Okay, so the first one is, as I always do, the smallest inlays first. I put the inlay in, make sure that it fits somewhat reasonably, then get a piece of wood and my mallet and start tapping in. Okay. That looks good. Okay, I think, yep, they'll look good. And then you get the next piece in, which is the bigger piece. This is a problem area because things can go really wrong on a big piece. So what I'll do is yeah, I can see that things didn't go quite right. Something's not right here. I got a rocker, and rockers aren't good. Again, there must be another joint here somewhere that's causing that, but I don't see a joint. Yep, that's the problem. Okay, I really screwed up on this one. Let me see if I can salvage it. That's what I'm going to have to do, yes. I thought it was a rocker, but not for the reason I thought. Okay. Let's try this again. Much better. Problem was there's a little cutout over here that should have happened, and it didn't. And that's my fault. So it's still going to look good. Okay, so with that complete, we just let that one dry out. And tomorrow we're going to sand that down and it'll look really pretty. And we're going to put this all together and we're going to see what happens. So I'm going to be very liberal with my glue here. And spread it around using my tool. Make sure I get all the glue in that I need to make a nice tight joint. After all, this box has got to last a couple of generations. And make sure that it's spread out. Once that's in place, I can take the mask piece, because that's on the side, and put that in place. Okay, now I rotate it, and I repeat the process, just putting a lot of glue in. Spread the glue around, make sure that you get a lot on here. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then this piece goes on. Okay, once that piece is on, that looks pretty good. And I turn it over. Make sure that's up there. And I'm going to glue up this section. Spread the glue around just like I did before. Make sure you get enough glue. And you got to get the glue off also before it dries, because otherwise any stain that you put on there will not stick and it's a real mess. So it's a lot easier to get it off when you're doing that. Okay, so I'm done, and I put the front on, which is this. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so I wipe any excess glue off as soon as I can. I'm going to do that on all of my edges. And then I'm going to make sure that on the inside especially, there is no problem with the glue, because any glue you put on there is going to really cause a problem. Okay, so I'm almost done. Now I got to put the clamps on, and you also want to make sure that everything is square. So I have a steel square I use, and it doesn't look right. There you go. It's very important that at least the front be square. Now we can put my big clamps on. The first clamps I put on are always the front clamps. And you're squeezing the wood so that it tightens the joint. And the next one, and then you got to check to make sure that it's still square. And believe me, you really should check at this point. Once you got the first one in, everything should be okay. So it looks square to me. And now I'm going to put in the next series of clamps, which will take care of the other edge. You can see it tightening. And get this clamp in. Oh, I heard that pop. Okay, still looks good. Now we're going to flip this over. And I'll move this back a little bit. We're going to flip this over, and I'm going to clean out the inside corners again. If you have the glue on there, you got to get it off, because otherwise it's really hard to get off. And then use some more clamps. So again, I use the inside clamps first, or the front. You notice I got these a little bit higher. There's a reason for that. There we go. And then I only use one clamp across the middle. And that should be it. I'll let that dry up, and you can see, I'll just move this back up again so you can see. This is now all clamped up. I squared it away, so it should be fairly square. I will double check the squareness, because on this box here it's very important. Yeah, it looks good. And tomorrow we can start processing and sanding it down. Okay, so now we've got everything all glued up, and it looks pretty good to me. So the next part is we've got to sand down the inlays that we did, get them flat, and we've got to take care of the edges. Now the best tool to do all this is a belt sander, and unfortunately I don't own a belt sander, at least not one that is a big table one. I mean, I got a handheld one, but it's not as good as a table one. So I've got this little jig that I built that's a table extension that allows me to clamp my boxes, and I use a little piece of foam there so it doesn't mar the backs. And then I use this type of clamp and securely mount it so that it doesn't shift. Now, depending upon the size of the box, this allows me to do the side, the top, and if the box was wide enough, I could do this side as well. But this box is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to have to shift and move it a little bit later. So how do I sand these down? Well, you could do it by hand, chuckle. But the best way to do it is the belt sander. I don't have a belt sander or a disc sander, so I have an orbital sander. Now this thing is on its last legs probably, and it has a dust collection system. So I start off with 60 grade paper, then I'll go to 80, 120, 220, 400, 600, and then I hand do it at 1,000 and 2,000. And some types of wood you can go up to 2,000, some types of wood you can't. Paddock is a wood you can't go that high because it doesn't really matter. Once you get past a certain 400, you just really don't need to go any farther. Maple, though, does really well if you go all the way up to 2,000. So I'm going to go turn on the vacuum now for, oh, this doesn't look good. And I'll start my sanding process. So that's good enough for that. I think this is pretty good enough for the first pass. You just want to make sure that everything is flush and that there's no catches. So what I do is always run down an edge, and if it catches like that, see the trick? Just do it at just your edge. And if you can catch an edge, it means that you still got more sanding to do. So I will finish up sanding this side, and the other side, and then I'll go back to you when I'm all done. Okay, so we did the first sanding with 60 grade. And after the first sanding with 60 grade, you take a look at it, and if the box joints have any problems, especially when you have exotics, you have a little bit of a problem sometimes, I fill in any gaps with wood filler, or in the case of the exotics, I have to make the filler by scraping, sawdusting, gluing, blah, 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 into my areas. Overall, I think everything looks pretty good. I'm just going to wait for all the fillers to dry up. It's going to take about an hour for me to feel comfortable about that. And then I'm going to do the rest of the sanding. And then we start some others. Then we put the bottoms on. We take another look at it, see what we can do. I might have to level the top on the CNC. We'll see how that works. But overall, I think this is a nice looking box so far.